Now, government cuts have left the UK unable to cope with more than one national emergency. That's according to the Fire Brigades Union. They're calling on the Chancellor to pay for 5,000 new recruits. Our East Hampshire and Isle of Wight reporter Dominic Blake has more on this. He joins us live from Portsmouth this morning. Good morning, Dom.
Good morning to you, Alan.
Break down a little bit what's been happening to the fire service.
Well, we've been looking at figures from the Fire Brigades Union, and they show that their numbers have dropped by more than 11,000 over the last 10 years. And here in Hampshire, they've lost about 200 frontline officers over that time. I've also been talking to Mark Chapman, who's the chairman of Hampshire FBU, and he says those cuts have had a big impact.
We've seen 198 firefighters cut from the front line since 2010, 27 just last year. So reversing that cut would go a long way to sustaining the right response for the types of incidents we're now seeing. Last year alone, there was 162,000 other incidents, not fire-related incidents, on top of our day-to-day runnings. That's 162,000 different jobs. So you can see the demands placed upon the fire service, both locally and nationally. And when you look at the fire services, they're not just within Hampshire. We see cuts across the border in Surrey, where 40 firefighters are being cut, and we're seeing Hampshire resources going across the county to support other services.
Dom, in real terms, just to help us with numbers, what does that mean day to day?
Well, for example, the union says that on Sunday there were only 7 firefighters on duty at Southsea instead of the optimal number, which is 12. And of course, that's during one of the busiest weekends of the year, just after Guy Fawkes Night. Over at Hightown Fire Station in Southampton, it says those numbers dropped to just 4 because 3 of their firefighters had to be sent to cover gaps at other stations, which were even more short-handed. And I've also been speaking to Rob Dello, who's the FBU Hampshire Health and Safety delegate. He says that here in Portsmouth, these cuts can mean that it can take longer to get to incidents, and there have been times when they can't get enough firefighters there to be fully effective as fast as they'd like.
We've seen in Portsmouth both the weight and the speed of attack has been affected by our lack of firefighters, and that's why I echo the need to have these 5,000 new firefighters in post to make a difference.
Could this put lives at risk?
Absolutely, and we're not only talking about public lives, we're talking about firefighters' lives as well. The longer we leave it before we can attend and make an intervention, the more that fire's grown and the more dangerous it is when we do finally make an entry.
Alongside this, Dom, the role of the fire service, or certainly fire and rescue service, has been expanding and changing in some ways that people may have not even thought that the fire service were involved in.
Yes, that's right. In fact, it was really surprising to hear Mark there saying that Hampshire actually handled more than 160,000 non-fire-related incidents last year. So that's more non-fire-related incidents than fire-related incidents. And also, people may not know that the government has a long list of national emergencies. So everything from things like climate change to flooding, wildfires, terrorism, and that the fire service is expected to respond to almost all of those. One of them, of course, is the pandemic. And the other thing that people may not know is that firefighters here in Hampshire do have a responsibility there for things like driving ambulances, helping the NHS to fit PPE, and rather grimly, you know, when it is required, moving bodies to makeshift mortuaries. And Mark Chapman is worried that if another national emergency comes along at the same time, there just won't be enough firefighters to go round.
We're a key player in responding to this pandemic, and it is my concern that if we have another major incident such as flooding, we couldn't do both of those at the same time. We are stretched far too thin, and we need those additional 5,000 firefighters.
And Mark's asking people to fund the Frontline campaign by writing to their local MP.
What does the government have to say to respond to all these figures that are now coming in?
Well, we were keen to speak to the Fire Minister, Kit Malthouse, so we invited him onto the programme, but we were given a statement by the Home Office instead, Alan. It says, firefighters work tirelessly to protect our communities and have gone above and beyond during the pandemic to keep people safe. But it says that fire and rescue services have the resources that they need. They'll receive $2.3 billion next year, and that there has also been this downward trend in fire since 2009, with incidents in England falling by more than a third in the past decade. And it also said it's the responsibility of the fire and rescue services themselves to make sure that they have the appropriate number of firefighters on shift to deliver their core functions. And finally, the Home Office said it has also launched a £6 million COVID-19 contingency fund for the fire service to help cover the cost of extra duties during this outbreak, Alan.
That's our East Hampshire and Isle of Wight reporter Dominic Blake. We'll be talking more about that at 8:05. That's the fire service. Quite extraordinary to hear the other roles that the fire service do, and also that they're going out to more non-fire related call-outs than ever before.